think our clock is 1 minute slow. But anyway, we'll call the meeting to order. I move that the process for Wheatland County Council meeting as it pertains to the scheduled public hearings will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, consideration for further readings of bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. Further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And with that, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2016-30. Has the proper notifications been done?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they have, as per the MGA.
Okay. Is there any member of the public have any concerns of any councillor listening to this public hearing? Not seeing any, please continue.
Thank you. So the first one is redesignation application LU 2016-42, bylaw 2016-30. The application is to redesignate Lot 1, Block 1, Plan 0511551 from Agricultural General District to Direct Control District. Staff's recommendation is that Council choose option 1, approval of LU 2016-42, Terry Thiessen redesignation application for the following reasons. The Direct Control District's rules and regulations align with the existing uses on the parcel with the municipal development plan while ensuring that future development continues to fulfill those goals. The proposed redesignation does not remove additional agricultural land from production and aligns with Section 3.1 of the MDP. The proposed redesignation aligns with the commercial and industrial development objectives of the MDP. And finally, staff has no concerns with access or servicing related to this proposed redesignation. So I'll now just go through a bit of background and show the location.
Just excuse me for a minute. Could you remove your hat, please? Your hat? Okay. Is there a reason you want to wear your hat? Or? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is the location. It's adjacent to Range Road 254 and approximately 2.1 kilometers southwest of the town of Strathmore. To show the map here, this is the area plan of the subject parcel where the redesignation's proposed. And this is the bylaw map. So I'll go through the background information. The purpose of this application is to allow for the continued manufacturing, painting, storage, repair, and maintenance of various types of equipment on the subject parcel, while allowing for continued agricultural and residential uses as well. The business existing on the parcel originally started as a secondary use business permit, which will expire on October 13th, 2017. Under the new land use bylaw, this business would not be allowed to continue under the newly created home-based business category, as it would not fit the parameters in terms of size and scale. The parcel also contains one residential dwelling, and a significant portion of the site is farmed. In terms of our policy analysis, the proposed rezoning aligns with some aspects of the MDP while contradicting others. The Direct Control District was developed in a manner that works to fulfill the policies and objectives of the MDP while allowing the existing business development on the parcel to remain. Section 3.1 focuses on preserving agricultural land and minimizing fragmentation. The proposed DC, while shifting a portion of the site from agricultural uses, works to maintain and prevent any additional fragmentation or removal of farmland through the use of development cells. So you'll see here on the map on the screen, the parcel, the whole 97 acres, is broken off into 3 different cells. So you have your agricultural cell, which is cell 1. So the only uses that would be allowed within that cell would be agricultural in nature. Cell 2 is the residential, where the existing house is. So solar, like personal solar panels, a garage, shop, residential uses, those would all be allowed to continue in that cell. And then cell 3 is specifically focused on the existing business development that's occurring on the parcel. So the uses that currently exist would fit within those permitted and discretionary uses that are noted in the Direct Control District. So it allows us to maintain the agricultural land that are currently in existence, allow the owner to continue to operate his business, as well as live on the parcel while working within our new land use bylaw and the municipal development plan. As the DC is currently drafted, future subdivision of the land would require a DC amendment or a land use redesignation to a different district. So this further works to align the district with the MDP through preventing additional agricultural fragmentation. Section 3.6 of the MDP speaks to residential development in the county. As this district is drafted, it still continues to allow for the residential dwelling to exist. There's also setbacks in place for the industrial cell to ensure a good buffer between the existing residential, as well as ensuring the maximum buffer possible is in place between the other undeveloped acreages that surround the parcel that you can see outlined as well on this map. Section 3.7 of the MDP provides direction for staff to determine if the application aligns with the commercial and industrial development objectives and policies of the MDP. Although the DC does not align with the objectives of directing the commercial and industrial development to designated areas, providing development opportunities in close proximity to hamlets or allow for expansion and diversification, the proposed regulations do work to address the existing situation and align it to the best of staff's ability to the policies and objectives of the MDP. As this has been a business in operation for many years in the county and was previously legitimized under the secondary use business category, staff has provided through this district the business to continue to operate, which supports the MDP's objectives, allowing for economic diversification. Furthermore, this application was circulated to adjacent landowners with no concerns noted as of the writing of this report. A review of the development permit file on the existing business also determined there's been no complaints regarding this parcel in the past. In the spirit of the MDP's objectives of consultation and collaboration with the surrounding community, it appears that this landowner has maintained the business with minimal impact on adjacent landowners. The DC will further ensure through setbacks and landscaping or screening conditions at future development permit stages that the development does not pose a nuisance effect to adjacent landowners. We then reviewed it through the land use bylaw, and this proposed rezoning area will be required to comply with all of the rules and regulations set out in the DC district, as well as the general regulations of the land use bylaw. It was then circulated externally. Alberta Health Services had their standard 4 comments, as well as an additional comment noting that there is challenges with a mix of residential and industrial uses. They note that AHS understands that a portion of the proposed subject lands are currently used for industrial purposes and that there are existing and several proposed residential developments near the subject property. AHS recommends that any development that has the potential to adversely impact surrounding residential receptors should not be located in close proximity to residential or other sensitive land use areas. So with those comments, that's why we put buffers in place through the direct control district to try to make it as best as possible. We realize it's an existing business, but try to ensure that future expansion doesn't occur that would further impact those adjacent residential lots. Navigation Canada commented. They don't usually comment, but they provided the comment they have no objections to this. Ember Resources noted that they have 2 wells and various pipelines in the Northwest 4, 24, 25, west of the 4th, and as such, the applicant should be aware that no dwellings can be constructed within 100 meters of the well centers. This DC does not allow for that, and there is the residential dwelling already in place, so this isn't a concern. West Irrigation District commented that there's no objections as long as their 30-meter setback is maintained if there are any permanent structures or utilities. Internally, it was circulated there was no concerns. Externally, it was circulated to all adjacent landowners within a mile of the subject lands, fitting with our new land use bylaws circulation requirements. And no letters were received in either support or objection to the application at the time that this report was prepared. So I'm just going to go up to our recommendation. Staff is recommending the council choose option 1, approval of LU 2016-42 redesignation application for the following reasons as noted previously. And then furthermore, option 1, motion 1, that bylaw 2016-30 be given second reading and third and final reading. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions, council? Brenda?
So within the bylaw, the actual bylaw itself, DC 11, you added on under industrial, you added on a special regulations, I guess. Is that in cell 3 under industrial? And my question is you put under Development permit applications for recreational vehicle storage shall include a landscaping and screening plan. All landscaping shall be in accordance with the landscaping section of the general regulations of the land use bylaw. So that falls under cell 3 in industrial. So why wasn't it just added into discretionary? Because they'd have to come back and do that.
Through the chair, that's one of our standard regulations with DCs, for industrial DCs. This doesn't have a recreational vehicle storage in existence within it. So this is actually a redundant regulation. It is within our template, but it could be removed. It doesn't serve any, wouldn't serve any purpose as RV storage isn't listed as a permitted or discretionary use in the cell 3. So it doesn't, they can't do RV storage within this parcel, so the landscaping and screening wouldn't apply, and it won't apply to any of the other, it may apply to the other conditions, but it's not included within this DC. That'd be determined at the development permit stage.
Well, there's I think by having it in as a development permit applications, it indicates that there's an availability for recreational vehicle storage. So I guess special regulations, you've put it in their bylaws, so I'm not sure whether I'd like to see that taken out, I think.
Through the chair, that'd be fine to have it removed. It's redundant either, so it could be fine to be removed.
Okay. Any other questions? Any comments or questions from the public? One last time for council, staff, public. Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2016-30 and are now back in council's wishes.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
move second reading with the removal of the special regulation?
Amended.
There's no conditions. You can't
You
put
can't
conditions on it.
condition, but you can direct staff to take that condition off. That would be an amendment.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're moving second reading with the amendment of
amended.
taking that regulation out.
special regulation off, yes.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And
Third reading.
Ben has moved third and final reading. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2016-37. Has the proper notifications been done?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they have.
Is there any member of the public have any concerns of any councillor listening to this public hearing? Not seeing any, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try reopening it because the PDF on this laptop seems to, there we go. That's weird. So now this time it reopened. Okay. So this is planning application PL 2016-49, bylaw 2016-37. The application is to repeal the Eagle Head Area Structure Plan. Our recommendation, staff's recommending option 1, which is to repeal bylaw 2007-76 for the following reasons. The proposed repeal is authorized under the MGA, and the Eagle Head Area Structure Plan has been deemed obsolete or spent. So option 1 is repeal bylaw 2007-76, the Eagle Head Area Structure Plan, and motion 1 that the bylaw 2016-37 be given second reading and then third and final reading. Bit of background, the purpose of this application is to repeal the Eagle Head Area Structure Plan as part of the county's objective of bringing all ASPs into conformance with the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan by September 2019. As a subsequent subdivision has been approved and registered within the Eagle Head ASP, staff has deemed the ASP to be obsolete or spent as per the MGA. You'll see the relevant policies here, the SSRP, the MGA, the MDP, and then the Eagle Head Area Structure Plan. So I'll just go down to the map while I go through my report. This is a location map of the Eagle Head ASB. You may recall the 3-lot subdivision occurred last year within this area structure plan. Area plan, the subject lands. And then this was actually in the Eagle Head area structure plan. This was the original plan. Of course, it was altered considerably due to environmentally sensitive features and changes in provincial policies to only encompass 3 lots. And that was the maximum that the quarter would allow as per the municipal development plan. So I'll just go through my report now. So the purpose of the Eagle Head ASP was to comply with previous Wheatland County policy, which required an ASP to be submitted if a proposed subdivision would result in excess of 3 lots per quarter section. As the applicant at the time proposed an 11-lot subdivision exceeding the 3 lots per quarter, the Eagle Head ASP was needed. The bylaw 2007-76 was adopted on October 2nd, 2007. A 3-lot subdivision was approved as a result of the ASP, and all of the lots have been registered. Therefore, staff deem the ASP to be obsolete or spent as per the MGA. As the ASP has been deemed spent, staff are of the opinion that bylaw 2007-76 should be repealed. Although the ASP proposes 11 lots, environmental considerations resulted in the developer having to limit the number of subdivided parcels and fall short of the 11 lots shown in the ASP. Given that a subsequent subdivision has been approved and registered, staff is of the opinion that its intention and purpose has been met. We first reviewed this through the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan. The province notes that all statutory planning documents must be in alignment with the SSRP by September 1st, 2019. The county now has less than 3 years to review all of our regulatory instruments, such as the Municipal Development Plan, the Land Use Bylaw, and all ASPs, and file a statutory declaration with the Provincial Land Use Secretariat. As the Eagle Head ASP is a statutory document, the county would be required to update the ASP to bring it into alignment with the SSRP, if not repealed. In terms of the MGA, the repeal of bylaw 2007-76 is permitted under section 6332B, which states that the bylaw may authorize the following: omitting and providing for the repeal of a bylaw or a provision of a bylaw that is inoperative, obsolete, expired, spent, or otherwise ineffective. And then, as I noted previously, in terms of alignment with the Eagle Head ASP, it was for 11 lots. They went for 3 lots. They were registered. The ASP has met its purpose and has now been spent. Internally, this was circulated with no concerns. The proposal was circulated to all landowners within a half mile of the subject lands. This file went for first reading and was received first reading last year and was based under the old LUB, which is why this one was just done with the half-mile circulation radius. Option 1 was to repeal, so there's 2 options for council's consideration. Option 1, to repeal bylaw 2007-76, or option 2, refuse to repeal bylaw 2007-76, the Eagle Head ASP. As I go back up to my recommendation here, staff's recommending option 1, which is to repeal bylaw 2007-76. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions from council? Is there any questions or concerns or comments from the public? Alice?
Through the chair to Colton. So when you refer to this area now, it's always been the Eagle Head Area Structure Plan. So what is the 3 lots considered? Are they just sit there and say it's subdivided, or do you have a name for the area, or what happens? Because that sort of sticks and resonates with people around the area. So what do you call it now?
So typically what developers do is the area structure plan isn't necessarily always what they end up calling a community. The ASP, someone goes in and buys an acreage or a lot in a community, they usually have no idea what the actual area structure plan and the planning documents that got those approval of those lots was. The developer has their own kind of branding and marketing that determines how they're going to market and name their community, what resonates with people so that they purchase it. So the removal of this Eagle Head ASP wouldn't stop this developer if they wanted to try to market it in a certain way, country estates or the usual kind of names you see out there. It still will fall, this still land falls within the Eagle Lake area structure plan. So I'm assuming it'd just be referenced as Eagle Lake, make an Eagle Lake subdivision, so to speak. Yeah. I haven't seen these, I believe I'd seen these lots on MLS previously and there was no reference to Eagle Head, or there's no kind of strong association to the land with that name. But that's a great comment, thank you.
Okay, just something that, resonated with me. It's okay, if you want to, identify an area, that's kind of how it was done. So where does that leave it? But you're right, it can be called anything after that, I guess. Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the public? Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2016-37. We're now back in council. Council's wishes. Ellis?
I so move bylaw 2016 37. I wanted to make sure it was the right one for second reading.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Don? Don's moved third and final reading. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And with that, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2016-45. And proper notification's been done.
Yes, Mr. Chair, they have.
Is there any member of the public have any concerns of any member of this council listening to this public hearing? Not seeing any, please continue.
Thank you. So this is redesignation application LU 2016-65, bylaw 2016-45. The application is to redesignate lots A and B, Plan 8310554, from Agricultural General District and Industrial General District to Direct Control District. Our recommendation is that Council choose option 1, approval of LU 2016-65, which is owned by 1022033 Alberta Limited, and for the following reasons. The proposed DC aligns with the objectives and policies of the Municipal Development Plan in terms of buffering between adjacent land uses and environmental considerations. 2, the proposed redesignation aligns with the commercial and industrial development objectives of the MDP. And finally, the proposed redesignation aligns with the rules and regulations of the land use bylaw. So option 1 would be motion 1, that bylaw 2016-45 be given second reading, and then it be given third and final reading. Bit of background, this proposed redesignation is to fit the existing post-secondary educational uses existing on the parcel within the rules and regulations of the land use bylaw. As the mix of uses does not fit within the current districts of the LUB due to their uniqueness and composition, a DC district is necessary. The business currently operating on the site, which is Global Training Center, includes training and educational facilities, agricultural uses, and a driving track. In the past, these uses have operated under a mix of development permits for home occupations and specific structures. Many of the uses are based off of expired DPs and far exceed the home-based business category of the land use bylaw, particularly as there's no primary residence on the site. If approved, the applicant would be required to submit a development permit application that encompasses the uses on the site for approval. Just go down to the maps while I go through my report. So here's the location of the subject parcel, quite near the last application we just discussed. This is an area plan. So there's 2 parcels here. There's lots A and B. So both parcels would fit under the direct control redesignation. And these just arrows show where some of the key aspects of the site are, the educational facilities, and then the track is up here. It's along Township Road 240. This is the bylaw map, so this would accompany the bylaw. And then the circulation, as we noted, it was circulated a mile, so it was quite a significant circulation area. So I'll just go back up to the recommendation while I go through my report. Okay. So the proposed redesignation aligns with some aspects of the municipal development plan while contradicting other aspects. The DC was developed in a manner that works to fulfill the policies and objectives of the MDP while allowing the existing business development on the parcel to remain. Section 3.1 focuses on preserving agricultural land and minimizing fragmentation. The proposed DC district, while shifting a portion of the site from agricultural uses, works to maintain and prevent any additional fragmentation or removal of farmland through the use of development cells. Cell 1, which is comprised of roughly 28 acres, is designed to be used for only agricultural purposes. The uses listed as permitted and discretionary in that cell do not include industrial or residential uses, which ensure that the cell can only be used for farming unless a rezoning was to take place. As the DC district is currently drafted, future subdivision of the land would require a DC amendment or a land use redesignation to a different district. This further works to align the district with the MDP. Section 3.7 of the Municipal Development Plan provides direction for staff to determine if this application aligns with the commercial and industrial development objectives and policies of the Municipal Development Plan. This application aligns with some aspects and contradicts others. Given that it is an existing use that has been in existence for a long period of time, staff is of the opinion that it aligns with the objective of supporting local businesses. The draft DC was designed to align with policy 3.7.2.1 that new commercial and industrial development is directed to designated areas and separation or buffering from residential sites is encouraged. Given the setback, lot coverage, and cell layouts, staff's of the opinion that nearby acreage developments will be less impacted from the existing business as it continues to operate. Given the number of undeveloped acreages that do not currently have dwellings, future planning and consideration for these adjacent parcels was a key consideration of the DC district to ensure the buffering policies as noted in the MDP were followed. In terms of the land use bylaw, the proposed direct control district and future uses will be required to align with the rules and regulations of the LUB. We circulated this externally. Alberta Culture noted they have no objections to the rezoning, but the applicant should be informed that Historical Resources Act approval must be obtained prior to proceeding with any land surface disturbances. So as noted, these are all existing uses. As of right now, the applicant hasn't noted they're applying for any future development. If they do, historical clearance will be required through Alberta Culture. Alberta Environment and Parks commented that they have no concerns with this application. Alberta Health Services had their standard comments in regards to this. ATCO Pipelines noted no objections, as well as ATCO Gas. TELUS had no objections. Internally, our Development Services Department commented to that please ensure the applicant is aware that development permits will be required for all future development on the subject lands and that there's no appeals allowed on development permits under a direct control district. This was circulated to all landowners within a half mile of the subject lands. No letters were received in either support or objection to the application at the time that this report was prepared. I'll just go to our recommendation. Staff is recommending option 1, approval of LU 2016-65. As noted previously, it aligns with the MDP, the land use bylaw, and specifically the commercial and industrial development objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any questions or concerns, Council? Yeah?
So is there, just a question, is there not a home on this current property? Is there not like a home
But
on
it's
the?
not used as a.
There's the office.
Yeah.
So there's no, you might as well go to the mic.
Modular home.
Well, through the chair to Colton, on the bylaw, there's not an allowance for permitted use on that. So there's no permitted use for the home that's existing there on either cell 1 or 2.
Through the chair, staff had been under the standing that there was dwellings, but not used as dwellings, used as offices and storage.
So nobody resides on that property now?
Was what I was under the impression.
That's not the case. I'm sure it's not the case. That's why I'm asking the question. Could
Could
you
you
ask?
have the applicant come?
Could you turn the mic back on? Thank you.
Yeah, the property has always had a house on it, and that house was both office and residence. It's been like that since 1982, when we purchased it. And we since then moved a modular home on there that, well, there's always been the two of them there. So, yes, Brenda.
So, and through the chair back to Colton, then I would recommend, or I would ask permitted use of that be added to the bylaw, because it's not in, if you look at the actual bylaw, in cell 1 or cell 2, you're not allowing any single detached dwellings or anything like that.
I thought it was in there. No?
No. So through the chair, I just pulled up the letter. I had pulled up the letter that was submitted, and we were not aware of, there was no residential listed in the list of the uses that were proposed. The DC was also circulated to the applicant. They had thought it wasn't there. Apparently, we had circulated and gone back and forth on that. So staff had been of the opinion up until now that there was no residential dwelling. We pulled permits as well and didn't find any for an existing. We had thought it'd been removed. So if council's prerogative is to add a residential dwelling, that's up to you. However, the DC wasn't drafted in that matter, so I would suggest we would recess, amend it, and bring it back with the residential cell included, and we can just bring it back next month if there's still time.
Well, I just don't want the bylaw to be non-compliant when we move it forward, so you might as well be in compliance, because the houses have been there for as long as. Forever. Yeah. So I don't want you to be non-compliant, so yeah, if you would like to recess, that's fine. I just noticed that. No, it's not in the new bylaw.
So if I recess the public hearing, when would it be open again? Would you get that done today, or?
We can bring it back to the July meeting, to the July public hearing, or did you want it? You can just, if you would like to just add it within the institutional industrial cell, but I would suggest staff has the chance to go back, amend the direct control district, put in a residential cell, and then just bring this back at the next council planning meeting.
Okay, so would that give you enough time to do notifications and all that again?
Through the chair, yes. We just would have to re-advertise in the paper for the 2 weeks prior, so we could do that, and we could also resend it out to all the adjacent landowners. That wouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Brenda?
So a question through the chair to Colton. Is there a need to have a residential cell or add permitted use within the agricultural and the industrial?
I would suggest a residential cell. That's kind of been our standard protocol for direct control districts, is we put the residential separate from the other uses with its own setback. It's a bit tricky with this one because that house is tucked right in the middle of where all the institutional industrial uses are. But I'd like to at least be able to go look at it and then reconsider.
It's always been a residence for property maintenance.
Your mic's off.
Okay.
But yeah, it's always been, the residence is always there for the guy that looks after the property, right? So, with security as well, so it's all, like I say, it's always been there.
So through the chair, I would request a recess until we get all the pertinent information for this application in front of us. Right now, we don't have it all, so.
Done?
Yep.
I'll recess this public hearing to an appropriate date.
Thanks. Yeah, as noted, we understood the mobile home was an office, so weren't aware. And then the list, we always have applicants for DCs send a list of everything that was submitted. It seems the list didn't include the residential. It was a misunderstanding because it had been here for a long period of time. So we'll have to re-look at that.
Okay.
So just to
What's that?
comment back through to, he did mention security as well, so that's a thing possible.
Yeah, through the chair, under the new land use bylaw, it'd be under dwelling employee.
Okay. Okay, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2016-46. Proper notification's been done.
Yes, Mr. Chair, they have. Sorry, just 1 second here.
Okay. Is there any member of the public have any concerns of any counselor listening to this public hearing? Not seeing any, please continue.
Okay. It's redesignation application LU 2016-66 or bylaw 2016-46. The application is to redesignate Lot 3, Block 3, Plan 0612529 from Agricultural General District to Direct Control District. Our recommendation is that Council choose option 1, approval of LU 2016-66 Telsec Property Corporation redesignation application for the following reasons. The proposed redesignation aligns with the general objectives and policies of the MDP, and the proposed direct control district as drafted fulfills the agricultural recreational policies of the MDP. Option 1 is that Council Bylaw 2016-46 be given second reading and third and final reading. At a background, the purpose of the application is to accommodate the current mix of uses that are present on the parcel. During the land use bylaw update process, the landowner became aware of the fact that their parcel was proposed to be redesignated to the Parks and Recreation District. This was due to the fact that staff's opinion was that the parcel most appropriately fit this district due to the existing golf course on the property. The applicant did not wish to have the entire parcel designated to Parks and Recreation District due to the fact that the subject lands are currently going through the annexation process with the town of Strathmore. They were concerned that this would not be the most appropriate designation, as they stated a significant portion of the lands are currently used for agricultural purposes as well. Since Wheatland County does not, as a practice, utilize spot zoning, preferring instead to designate entire parcels to one designation, staff recommended that the applicant proceed with a direct control district. The proposed DC district breaks out the parcel into 2 cells, one recreational cell for the golf course and associated facilities, and a second cell for the agricultural lands. The 2 cells largely follow the uses existing in the land use bylaws Park and Recreation District and the Agricultural General District. I'll just go down to the maps here while I go through the report. Here's the location plan, ideally adjacent to the town of Strathmore. This is the area plan, so you'll see the largely two quarter sections here. Township Road 244 and then Range Road 254. This is the bylaw map, so this accompanies the DC as well. So you'll see cell 1, the green, is the golf course and recreation cell, so that's where the golf course is. And then cell 2 is the agricultural cell, where the agricultural lands are. So all the agricultural uses, the majority of them that are in the Ag General District, are within this cell. See the circulation. This was circulated to the town of Strathmore. I did not receive any formal comments back from them in regards to this application. Okay. So in terms of our policy analysis, the proposed redesignation aligns with the objectives and policies of the MDP in regards to protection of agricultural land, allowing for recreational uses in close proximity to populated areas, and ensuring adequate buffering between differing land uses. The proposed DC district preserves the agricultural land by allocating it into Cell 2 with the same permitted and discretionary uses as the Ag General District. As noted in the background information section, the parcel is currently going through the annexation process with the town of Strathmore, with the expectation that residential development will occur around the golf course in the future. Although this is planned for the future and would be at the town of Strathmore's discretion if the annexation is approved, staff must consider this application in regards to the adopted planning policies for Wheatland County. As agricultural preservation is a key component of the MDP, the DC district supports continued agricultural uses that work in harmony with the adjacent golf course. Section 3.1 notes the importance of parks and recreational opportunities for county residents. Objective 3.10.1.2 notes that the county should encourage high-quality recreational facilities that meet the needs of all residents across all age, economic, and cultural backgrounds, and that the county should promote the development of a range of sites for different parks and recreational activities. The existing Oxbow Golf Course on the subject lands promotes these objectives and recreational opportunities currently in the county. The DC will allow these uses to continue to operate in alignment with the MDP and the land use bylaw. As noted, all future proposed uses will be required to be in alignment with this direct control district and the land use bylaw. This was circulated to external agencies. Alberta Environments and Parks commented that they reviewed satellite imagery, and it appears there might be several water features on the property that may be impacted by the proposed redesignation and resulting future development. They noted that these water features should be avoided if and when the parcel is developed and environmental reserve is required to protect the water features. However, because nothing's changing in regards to this, these are all existing uses and development that's currently in place. If they do move forward with future development, say they're annexed by the town of Strathmore, all of those aspects would be thoroughly looked at that point. As this is just a direct control district for existing uses, staff didn't feel it was appropriate to require any supporting studies in that regard. Alberta Health Services had a few comments. They noted, currently health approval and a valid food permit from AHS has been issued to this facility for the operation of a restaurant within the development area. Further, future development and operations of the public facility may be required to comply with the latest edition of the Alberta Food Regulation and Food Code or other regulations and codes under the Public Health Act. They also noted they'd like to comment on future development applications to construct or operate public facilities on the subject lands, in particular the food establishment components, RV camping, etc. And they wanted development or building plans to be forwarded to their department for review before a DP is granted. As noted, no development is proposed as part of this application. Number 3, they stated, due to the classification of the development being public, AHS currently has a routine bacteriological and chemical water monitoring program in place to ensure potability of the water supply. The remainder 3 comments are the standard comments from Alberta Health Services in terms of ensuring alignment with their policies. ATCO Pipelines commented that the engineering department of ATCO Pipelines has reviewed the above named plan and has no objections subject to the following conditions. And they then note the conditions in terms of encroachment and maintaining separation from their right-of-ways. TELUS noted that they understand an application has been made for a subdivision, mixed-use strata / proposed development over the above-mentioned lands. They then note that they have no objections to the proposal. So Western Irrigation District had 2 comments. Their first comment was on March 30th, 2017, and they stated that WID has no objections to the redesignation as long as our statutory easement's not affected. Then I received the second comment on June 6, 2017 from them. There was no additional circulation, it just came in. Would you like me to read their comments?
Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. So the Western Irrigation District appreciates the opportunity to comment on the proposed redesignation of the above noted lands. Our understanding is that this is to change the land designation to DC District from Agricultural General District for the entire 315.56 acres of land. The Western Irrigation District is interested in supporting the viability of irrigated agriculture and wishes to note the following facts that inform our comments on this redesignation. A total of 30 acres of irrigation rights are registered on the parcel. There is currently no active irrigation use on the parcel and no irrigation systems present. The most recent land assessment under the Irrigation Districts Act only identifies 3 acres as irrigable. The remainder are either non-irrigable or not assessed. Many of these uses under the proposed direct control district designation are inconsistent with the use of irrigation acres under the Irrigation Districts Act. The Western Irrigation District's comments are as follows. 1. If the owner has no interest in retaining the irrigation acres on the parcel, the applicant would be required to remove the acres off the subject parcel within 120 days of the approval of the rezoning by A, transferring the acres to another parcel within the district, or B, selling the 30 irrigation acres to another irrigator to be used on another parcel, or C, surrounding the acres to the district. 2, if the owner has interest in retaining the irrigation acres on the parcel, they would need to A, provide a land classification of the subject parcel prepared by a registered agrologist identifying 30 irrigable acres on the subject parcel, and B, amend the proposed redesignation to retain agricultural zoning on the location identified as irrigable by the land classification. The Western Irrigation District encourages the owner to identify their preferred course of action and initiate the selective process as soon as possible to ensure that any approvals required coincide with the timelines of the municipal redesignation process. So from staff's perspective, these comments in our opinion, are not relevant to the redesignation process or our rezoning. They're a private matter between the WID and the landowner, so we pass these on and have these in our report. However, they were not taken. They were reviewed and considered, but were found not to be taken into needed to be taken into consideration with our recommendation. As noted, the DC is broken into an ag cell, agricultural cell, and a parks and recreational cell. So there is no removal of agricultural land. It's just a shift in the name of the district to allow for the mix of uses. So this was circulated to all landowners within a mile of the subject lands in the town of Strathmore. No letters were received in either support or objection to the application at the time the report was prepared. So there's 2 options for council's consideration, and as noted previously, staff is choosing option 1, which is approval of LU 2016-66, the Telsec Property Corporation redesignation application. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions or concerns, council? Is there any questions or concerns from the public? Please take the stand and state your name, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Christy Bunder. I'm the planner for the file representing the landowner. You're moving right along here, so I don't want to
Okay.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm calling this the unredesignation because we were agriculture, then we got moved into Parks and Rec, and I'd like to have us go back to agriculture. And I'm just going to add a little bit more detailed explanation, although Mr. Nicoll has done a really good job of this. In 2016, the planning department advised us that this entire land would be rezoned to Parks and Rec. And the reason for that was that because we had a 9-hole golf course on the site, that the entire 316 would be rezoned this way. Only 89 acres of the entire site include that golf course, and this is the Parks and Rec district of the county now highlighted with golf courses as a discretionary use. The problem, however, is that the Oxbow lands are in the process of being considered for annexation. I'm never going to say that they will be until they are, because it's a lengthy process, as we know. And I can certainly provide council an update on that if you so desire. The blanket rezoning of 316 acres containing the golf course to Parks and Rec is concerning to us for a couple of reasons. The majority of the site is actually in agriculture, and we intend to keep it that way, and we'd like to utilize it for agricultural purposes and give it the benefit of the agricultural zoning, and it is the majority of the site, not the minority of the site. I'm also concerned that because if it is annexed into the town and we are successful in doing that, the town doesn't have a district that's equivalent to this one. They have what they call their P1 Public Service District, and that's the only district that has golf courses as a permitted use in it. But it also conveys a lot of open space and perpetual open space that's town-owned, and that's not the case for this entire site. So it's a concern for me if it goes into the urban jurisdiction, it's called Parks and Rec, there's a problem potentially with town residents not foreseeing that this is actually for future urban development, and that's the reason for the annexation. We're not just bringing another Parks and Rec space into the town. This is the town's P1 district. The permitted use there is what they call athletic and recreational facility outdoor. That's where they put golf courses. The only other mention of that in the entire land use bylaw is in their light industrial land use district as a discretionary use. So there's a little bit of a incompatible land use bylaw there between the county and the town for obvious reasons. This is green highlighted on the map here and is within the town is what is all P1, and it's the rodeo grounds, the golf course, any parks, any school sites. It's a very global, universally applied district, and my concern is that the Parks and Rec district for the county only closely parallels the P1, and my concern is that there would be potentially some miscommunication or misunderstanding that this would not be annexed for future urban development, but as a recreational space, and that's really not the point. This is the map that we prepared showing council where the C1 or the Cell 1 district for PR would be, where the golf course is. It includes the 9 holes and the associated ravines and drainage courses. And then the Cell 2 is the upland agricultural areas. I think Mr. Nicol did a good job overviewing the WID comments. I was quite surprised by them. Originally they had no concerns. And then we got what I consider to be a bit of a threat in the second set of comments. And my concern really with this is that we didn't want to remove the agricultural designation. Perceivably, there is no change on the ground here. We're trying to reintroduce agriculture back on the lands that are agriculture. And the license that's appertinent to Oxbow is actually a larger license that is to the benefit of the county and associated with municipal and commercial consumptive purposes. It's not just irrigation on Oxbow. So I think there's a real misunderstanding here by the WID as to what we're proposing and what license is appertinent here. This license includes Lyalta, Cheadle, Oxbow, Eagle Lakes, and it's a significant one. It's been in place since '63 and it was amended in 2011. So and it includes the watershed within the entire county. So I'm really stunned at what the WID has done here today. And I'm wanting some support from planning in my response to the WID because I believe it is a county-wide license and not just our own. And in conclusion, I think like the WID just does not understand what's going on here. I think direct control, this option that we're utilizing to split the zoning is a good one. It provides certainty for existing and potential future uses on the site, and it's accurately reflecting the site today. And I think it ensures a legible separation between the golf course lands and the ag uses, which is important regardless if the annexation occurs or not. So I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I'm open to your questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Brenda?
When you first started there, I'm pretty sure that you had it so that you wanted it undesignated, but you still want what the 3, Cell 1, Cell 2, Cell 3, right?
I call it the unredesignation because I'm just really trying to bring it back to where it was before the land use bylaw changed, which is agriculture.
So,
And,
okay, because
yeah.
when you first started there, I
I'm
was
sorry.
thinking that you were going the other direction, and I went, no, okay.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any other questions or concerns from the public? Any concerns from council? Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2016-46. Now back in council. What's council's? Brenda?
I shall move second reading of 2016-46.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Third and final? Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2016-59. Has the proper notifications been done?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they have.
Okay, is there any member of the public have any concerns of any councillor listening to this public hearing? Not seeing any, please continue. Thanks for coming in.
All right, so this is an RFD for a redesignation application, LU 2016-75, bylaw 2016-59, to redesignate 1.3 hectares or 3.22 acres from agricultural general to country residential district within the northeast 31, 24, 22 west of the 4. Recommendation, staff is recommending option 1, approval for the following reasons. It meets the objectives and policies of the municipal development plan, meets the rules and regulations of country residential district in the current land use bylaw 2016-01, and does not fragment productive agricultural land. Option 1, having motion 1 that bylaw 2016-59 be given second reading. Motion 2, that bylaw 2016-59 be given third and final reading. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go through the report. This is just a map showing the subject lands in relation to Standard and the adjacent range roads, 230, Range Road 224 and Township Road 250, with the green area being the subject lands. And this is the parcel in question that is being redesignated with the 3.22 acres outlined in red here. And Range Road 225 abutting that parcel there. All right. So the purpose of this application is to redesignate 3.22 acres from agricultural general to country residential to accommodate a future subdivision of 3.22 acres. Through policy analysis, there was no current ASP that this parcel fell in, so the municipal development plan was reviewed instead. In section 3.1 agriculture, the application meets objectives 3.1.1, sections 2, 3, and 8. The proposed redesignation uses the natural boundary of the plateau, which the existing dwelling and yard are located on, separating it from the remnant land, reducing agricultural fragmentation. The redesignation also meets the requirements of section 3.6, objective 3.6.17, to minimize encroachment of residential development onto agricultural lands. Section 3.2, natural areas, objective 3.2.1, were also met through the provisions of the application. The lands surrounding the proposed redesignation are identified as a wetland. The proposed redesignation is on a plateau, naturally separating the land and existing infrastructure from the surrounding wetlands. Further, the agricultural report provided by Agricultural Services, which is attached, supports the redesignation, stating there is no recent agricultural use on the encompassing yard. It follows a natural boundary, and provided the setbacks are maintained, will not significantly impact the surrounding wetland and riparian area. As well, the land use bylaw was reviewed in relation to this application. The size of the proposed parcel is within the acreage range for a country residential district in the current land use bylaw. The existing dwelling is a permitted use within this district, and the accessory structures and dwelling are within the 75-foot road right-of-way setback requirements of the district. As well, all structures are within the 10-foot setback of the side and front backyard setbacks. Through circulation, Alberta Health Services did comment that they had a concern regarding the overall usable size of the existing 3.22 acre size lot. Provided the applicant can show that no public health nuisance will be created and can meet all construction requirements and setback distances, they would have no concern. They then provided their standard 4 comments. ATCO Electric had no concerns. ATCO Pipelines had no concerns. Rosebud Gas had no concerns. Fortis had no concerns. TELUS and Western Irrigation had no concerns. Through internal department review, Agricultural Services provided their report, and they stated the parcel does not appear to have recent agricultural use, follows a natural boundary, and has an existing residence. For these reasons, Agricultural Services recommends approval for the application. They also stated there is significant wetland area and associated riparian area directly adjacent to the proposed rezoning in an aquatic environmentally significant area. However, the application is not expected to have an impact on the ecological components, provided that appropriate setbacks are maintained from the boundary of the subdivision for future development. And Transportation and Infrastructure stated that a new approach would be needed for the remnant parcel. Circulation was done within 1 mile of the subject lands. In the report, it says a half mile, but it was just an old template. So it was circulated for a mile around the subject lands there. At the time the report was made, no complaints were brought in. However, after the report was submitted to council for today's meeting, I did receive 3 letters of objection. I'll just scroll down to the adjacent circulation map and I'll point out where they are. Yeah. So they're all, there you go. Yeah. So one letter was received for this parcel over here. As well, a parcel was brought forth, where are they? Just to the north up here. And then another one was received, and it was a set of parcels that are owned by the same landowner just south of the application location. So going back to the recommendation, staff is recommending option 1, approval for the following reasons as fermented. And with that, you have your option 1, motion 1 and 2. And that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. We got these 3 letters. Have we got some to pass out to the, do we have lots there? Or?
I would like to see, I brought a letter in too, but I believe I have on there instead of 59.
Through the chair, I believe that's referring to the bylaw 2016-59. The file number is LU 2016-75, so that would be correct if it was for the file number, not the bylaw number.
Okay, so I'll give everyone time to read these letters, please. I see. Lawrence Jensen's, yeah. Has everyone read them? Okay, we'll continue on. Is there any questions from councils? Ellis?
Through the chair, if you put up the land site itself, please. I see on this land site, you have a red line drawn as a setback from the water and how much property, which is 3.22 acres, is to be used. My one question is on the west side, how far is the buildings from the property line in that back side there? Can you, have you got a design on how many feet's between it and the boundary?
Through the chair, I'm going to put up Unisite. So traditionally, well, not traditionally, through the land use bylaw, it is a 10-foot setback from the house and the property line with the backyard setback. So that's what we would be going for, is that the setback between this proposed redesignation is 10 feet from that house. We did ensure that when this does go through, the 10 feet will be met, and that would be at the subdivision stage.
Right.
If you'd like, I can put it up on Munisite and we can draw it out just to make sure, but at the subdivision stage, that property line is where it will be defined and settled, and we would ensure that the 10-foot setback from the back and the side yards would be established.
And how many feet from the water, edge of the water to the setback line is there?
Through the chair, for this application, we didn't go for the setback on the wetland down here because it is far enough away from the property. We circulated it out to appropriate agencies, and Alberta Environment was one of them, and they did not bring back any concerns. So therefore, we did not include any specific setbacks because as a planner, I do not have the authority to do that. But because it is within the plateau, we are taking that into consideration, that the water line is further south and that it would not be generally affected by the property line created there.
So it wouldn't impact the wetland?
Through the chair, the Agricultural Services report did state that there are concerns with the setbacks on the proposed redesignation was not a concern to them for the riparian habitat that is just west of them. So no, they are not concerned. Therefore, the the planning department does not have concerns with that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? Brenda?
Yeah, I have a question with regards to, I'm not exactly sure which letter it was, but there was a reference to a floodplain. And I'm not sure which letter writer made reference to a floodplain. I'm just going to check it and see. Are all the letter writers in the room? Okay, so somebody referred to a floodplain. Could you speak to that? Because with regards to the floodplain, could you come up and speak to? No, you have to go to the
Have
mic.
to come up to the podium, please.
Sorry.
Lawrence Jensen. This area is subject to a fairly high amount of runoff in every spring, and it backs up significantly through that area. A lot of, excuse me, a lot of it will sit underwater for a significant amount of time. And some years are extremely high. The last number of years, we've had a fair bit of runoff, but not as high as we've seen it in the past. And that is just my concern, that it saturates the area and it sits there, and your area shown there could tend to be smaller. The water could go higher on the sides than what it shows there.
Yeah, that's my concern.
Well, and I guess, can I ask back to you? Sorry. Through the chair to Mr. Jensen. We do have, if it's a known floodplain, and I guess maybe our staff can assist with that, if it's a known floodplain, then we are normally, that's a no-no right off the bat. But we do we not have records on floodplains through to the staff?
There we go. Through the chair. We don't have comprehensive floodplain mapping for the county, but we can pull up wetland mapping we have done and a 30-meter water course buffer to see where that falls on this. If we could pull that up on the Muni site, we can take a look at that. Just to clarify, though, that is different than floodplain mapping.
And I guess that's something that we have spoke about before, about doing our floodplain mapping for our county.
Through the chair, is there a residence on there right now? There's a residence, so the concern isn't so much about the residence, it's creating a separate parcel which would allow then more subdivision later on other portions of that same quarter, is what I'm hearing from, because the house is already there, the residence already there, that's not an issue, it's already there. If it doesn't go through, the house is still there. The bigger issue, I think, is taking it out of ag land and allowing the creation of more in the future. And it's been the same thing for the last, how many years have we been dealing with the same developer coming in and doing the same thing? So I'd like to hear from the applicant as to why now he needs that subdivision on there when the development is already in place.
Seamus, you want to come up, talk at the mic, please?
So first of all, in speaking about the flooding, I've had that house there 10 years, and the basement has never flooded in that house. Never had any problems. Septic field works perfect, never had an issue with it. Same with the one across the way. So my two daughters live in this area also, so they want to get cattle. We want to take some of that grassland and use it. If we decide to sell that piece of land off with the house, then we have that option.
Any other questions? Well, Mr. Ryan's at the mic. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Well, the only thing too is like, I've got two daughters living in that area. Brand new school went in. We need people to go to the schools. There used to be people in every quarter many, many years ago. Now we're trying to cut down more people. Doesn't make sense. No, that's it for me. That's my intention. So.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Alice got a hand up.
Just before you go, I have one other question. So at this point in time, you have no thought of trying to subdivide the bottom end of that into another acreage? Because that seems to be the concern in some of the letters.
The bottom end of which?
That parcel.
Not at this point, no. We're looking to, we have a quarter away from that, but it doesn't grow a lot of grass. And so we have horses as well. And so this land there that, they have a lot of land there, the renter, and they really, they run horses on it. We'd like to be able to do that. So we intend to contain.
So it's going to stay as it is as grassland.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Brenda?
So the rest of the quarter,
But it's only 40 acres there.
or the rest of the piece is 40 acres? So where is it accessible from on there?
Right in front of the house there, you mean to get into it?
To the remaining parcel?
Down towards the triangle there. There's a kind of a high spot there. You can come in off the road. Down, would be south, I guess.
Okay.
There's a high spot there.
Where, down here somewhere?
How do we?
I'm on that one.
Oh, no, go,
Higher?
No, yes. Yes, down there, yes.
Down there.
Is that south?
I got your pointer here. You point. You know where you're at out there. I think I know where I'm at, but,
Yeah, down there.
I just have to ask these questions because the land looks really rough to me. So it looks like this is a coulee running through.
No, it's not a coulee. really. Well,
Is it all
it's not a-
wetlands?
It's got that water area there where I guess, water settles there. You got a lot of birds that go in there throughout the year. And I think it used to be the old resting ground for the stampede many years ago when the horses came through. That's where they were rested in this particular land right here. It's got, natural grass there, right? And and it has a watering spring over on the other end there. So it's got, some water for animals to be able to have water there and what have you.
So the rest is just going to remain agriculture, or are you
Yeah,
going to?
no, it's going to remain the same.
Okay, so you're not building another house on that other, how many acres? 40? Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Does any member of the public have any other questions or concerns? Please come up, use the mic, and give your name.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Ross Collins. I'm an adjacent landowner just to the east of the subject property here. My family has owned it longer than I have been around, so I'm very familiar with the property there. It is all pasture land down there. There's a good reason why it has never been touched, is because it is not suitable for any kind of cultivation. It is wet all year long or underwater. Our property is, and it extends into all that property there. If you were to drive by, you will see water sitting out in there. My concern is, I guess, mainly that future residential development on that property is a big concern, because I look towards the future, and if this is being subdivided, I think that probably a plan is maybe one day it will be sold. And I would hate to think of some poor unsuspecting buyer to come in and buy a property there, and the first year we have a big snowfall and runoff or heavy rainfall to get a big surprise and an unpleasant surprise. So that's the concerns I have with it. And with it being, part of the Crowfoot watershed, I do believe that there are some environmental concerns there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions?
I've got a question.
Alice?
I've got a question before you go, sir. There was a comment in one of the letters about vehicles parking on the road and concerns about graders grading the road. What would be the reason that vehicles would be on the road and not in on the property? Is that something you can explain to me, as you know that area quite well?
Well, the property across the road from this one is, the yard itself is very small.
That's the one down
The
here.
the one on the right-hand
Right.
side there.
Okay.
So there's not a lot of room for parking there. I think that would be the reason why you might see some vehicles out on the road there.
So it's more the property down here that the vehicles are on the road, not the one we're talking about, which is the one covered in the red. with the
Well,
red.
sorry. I know in the wintertime, because these are rental properties, they're not equipped for snow removal or anything like that. And so if we get the snow or whatever, then that's when you'll find, properties sitting, or sorry, vehicles sitting out or whatever, because they can't access their yards.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, your turn.
I'm David Nilsson. I'm an adjacent landowner to the south, and it was my comment about vehicles parked on the road. On that property he's proposing to subdivide there, there's no built-up area there. And so when we do have a lot of snow, the people end up having to park on the road. And I mean, it's okay for us local residents, we are aware of that, but if you get somebody unsuspecting stranger in the dark and they come around a curve and there's a vehicle sitting on the edge of the road, and I know the snowplow operator, he has to be very diligent in going around there with vehicles parked on the road and whatnot. And I mean, further comment, he says, he doesn't have any plans for future development there, but his reputation has shown that if he gets this parcel pulled out, I'm sure he'll want to put another residence on the southeast corner there. I mean, why would he go to the expense of having that surveyed and pulled out of there? So I think in the long term, I mean, we'll be seeing an application for another house or a dwelling to go on there. Yes?
Go ahead, Brenda.
So are you referring, when you say he's going to, are you referring to the balance of the agriculture? Or are you referring to the little lot when you say you're going to have another house built there?
I'm referring to the balance. I'm referring to the balance of the remaining agriculture.
Okay, so here, and you're referring to the rest of the balance of the agriculture general. Okay, so in our ag service reports, that's in part of the package, I'm not sure whether you can pull that up for me on the thing. So I just was reading, and with that on the bottom, very bottom where it says no, because it shows to me that under the ag service portion of this, that the rest of the, how many acres, 60, the rest of the significant balance of it has got an environmentally significant area on it. So in other words, I'm not sure, and looking, that's what has been confusing me through that floodplain and all that water and that rough land. To me, it looks like undevelopable, like just from the maps. So, and then I read it in the environmentally significant area through there. So I'm not sure that that will ever happen if it's an environmentally, what you say it's running through water and it's underwater all the time.
Yeah, but in the southeast corner there is a high spot that he could put a house on, and I mean that's my concern. I mean he tried here, I don't know, several years ago to put 3 different parcels on there, and at the time it was turned down. It was deemed, but now if he's able to pull one parcel out, then the rest he should. The way I read the act, he can put a county or country residence on there, since it's still agriculture. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I'm just speculating. I'm just trying to get ahead with the problem rather than behind it.
Oh, and I realize that. I'm just looking at the parcel as a whole, and I see that all that green in the water, and that's why I asked about the floodplain, because if it's a floodplain and you happen to be downstream from it, it's not likely to, and that's why flood mapping, right, is what.
No, I mean, us as neighbors, we're just trying to, I mean, when he brings these houses in, I mean, he doesn't, make them appeasing to the eyesight. I mean, they're just houses that are plopped and no development done around them, and I mean, it really becomes an eyesore to drive by them, and when he's developing them, then we have garbage flying all over, and it adds nothing to the value of the county as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, Ben?
My comment was basically to Mr. Seamus, so if he wanted to come up, that'd be fine. Those houses that are referred to are all rentals? In these 2 houses? Are these, no, these are rentals.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Just a question for staff. There seems to be some confusion here. Right now on this parcel's 40 acres plus or minus memory, you can only build 1 house?
Through the chair, that's correct. Under the current land use bylaw, given that it's 40 acres, only 1 house would be allowed on this parcel. If this one is to be rezoned and subsequently subdivided, that would open up a second house could come in for a development permit on the remnant parcel. They wouldn't have to subdivide. They would just come right in for their development permit, which there's still oversight and scrutiny, but it is less so than at the subdivision state.
Right, it's a permitted use on the balance of the land.
That's correct.
Okay, Seamus, you wanted to speak some more, please?
Go back to the comment about what he said about the houses being an eyesore. I spent $60,000 on those 3 houses in the last 3 years. There's 2 new roofs. The house that we're talking about is getting a new roof. And I just put 40 trees in that house that are 15 feet high. I redesigned the yard, put in like $3,000-4,000 worth of gravel. I did the same down on another one that's down from my daughter's place. And if the fellow that's at the other side, he has asked me to come in and do the development like that on his place. And I said, well, when you clean up the yard, I will. So I do manage the people, and, you know, you get more skilled as you go along picking people, right, that they can handle situations. And so for the 3 that are there right now have been the best I've had. One has been there 10 years. Yes, he could do it, getting his yard organized. I did tell him I would put trees in and reorganize his yard bigger, as he was saying about the weeds. He has enough space there, but he's probably got too many vehicles. So then we gave the other fellow more space, and there's a nice tree layout. I mean, these things are aesthetically good-looking houses. They're not. I can't, you know, hold our hands on every aspect of what they do, but within reason, you can, you know, we talk to them and say, look, and when you put in trees and you put in money in there to them, they realize, okay, you know, I look after that. And so, you know, you build them up too to manage their capabilities of what they can do. Right? But I do look for the person. I had, every time one of those comes up for rent, I get anywhere from 50 to 60 people wanting to rent it. And I go through those. And it's a no, I can tell them no on the phone almost. I just know their habits, and have you lived in the country, what's your situation, how many families, how many people, are you going to live with your 3 cousins and your 4 uncles? Those questions come up so that I can isolate and say, no, I'm looking for stable people that have stable lives, that can handle situations. And that's worked out. They're really good tenants, these 3. They don't cause too many problems. They don't cause me any problems. Anytime I have any issues, they call me. We deal with it. I drive by there. I'm down in that area because my daughters live right there. So it's not like I'm, you know, sitting somewhere else not looking at the places.
Okay, thanks. Got a comment? Please. State your name, please.
Certainly. My name is Donna Hallett, and I wrote one of the letters. I live about a mile south on the east side of Range Road 225. I was unable to find my file from when this parcel was applied, was the subject of an application to subdivide it into 3 country residential parcels. I believe it was 5 or more years ago. And on that application, the applicant was required to drill a number of holes just to see where the water table was under this land. This land is right at the bottom. If you go down the Fireguard Road, west of Standard, you go down the hill and there's the little bridge, and it's about a mile across, and then it goes back up. This Range Road 225 is right at the bottom of that hill. My understanding and my memory, though it's not perfect, is that between the parcel on the west side of the road and on the east side of the road, the applicant drilled 6 holes in August. And then I think 48 hours later, they go by and they check to see what the level of the water is below the surface of the soil. And as I recall, all 6 holes had water between 3 and 10 inches below the surface of the soil. I understand that much of the northern part of the remainder parcel is designated as a wetland. That looks to me to be about as small as that wetland has ever been. We've lived where we are since 1992. But there's that little corner on the southeast bit. I don't think it's as high as the piece that has a house existing right now, but I know that in 2012 or whenever it was that the applicant was applying to subdivide this parcel, there was a house going there on that southeast corner. And it's, I don't know if you could make the setback requirements on it. I'm not sure if you could have a basement that wasn't subject to being damp. I'm not sure where you'd put an approach because the road curves there. It's got a reduced speed, and more than one person I know has had an exciting trip down that piece of the road in the dark, particularly in the winter. This remainder parcel, as far as I can understand the bylaw, would have little to no ability to put any kind of meaningful constraints on the development of yet another residence down there. And I just don't know how I don't know how a septic field would work. I know the existing residence, I believe, has just a conventional septic field, although a pressurized mound was recommended, but I don't think one was ever put in. And it just worries me that there will be, this particular parcel. I think the wetland gets pretty close to that property line. You can see the salt line around the property. The ground cover over the entire parcel is pretty marginal. I don't think that you can grow a lawn or grass. The applicant says he's put some trees in. I don't know how long those trees will remain. It's pretty rough. And to create something out of this now, I think the occupant of that house uses the entire parcel. There are animals running about. I think there's some horses and other animals on that property. As an agricultural property, I doubt you could sustain 5 animal units for the whole summer on the ground cover that's there. And so my greatest concern is not for the house that's there, it's the creation of a remainder parcel that the applicant will be entitled to put another residence on. And he can come here today and say he has no plan today to put a residence on it, but he had a plan to put a residence on it a number of years ago. And my concern is that those plans are just on hold. I just don't know that there's anything there that's really suitable for another residence, and the subdivision will create a right to place another residence.
Okay, any questions? Brenda?
I guess back through the chair. So how do I put this? I guess I'm going to just lay it out there for you. Today, what's in front of me is the piece on the north, which is the 3.22 acres. For myself to try to make a decision or to render a decision on the balance that is remaining, that is going to be like, that's something that you can't do without the application in front of you for that second. So I guess my question is that the natural land, and even in my, I look at staff recommendations, right? And I have the Ag Service report on it. And he's recommending approval, right? Our Ag Service based upon the parcel. So for me to make the judgment on the remaining balance of that, it would have to be at the time when that actually happened. So I know you're asking that your worries is, your worry as a neighbor, repair, whatever, is that he's going to come back and automatically put a house on there because he doesn't have to do that. So is there, I guess
my comment to that is that by creating the parcel that is the subject of this application, you are creating the remainder parcel as well. And they are not separable in that way. If you create parcel 1, you have created parcel 2. And by, just by the land use designations of parcel 1 and parcel 2, creating parcel 1 creates a developable residential site on parcel 2 as a permitted use.
Well, it may, but under the requirements and looking at the environmental, from what I can see from the environmental essay that's going to be required, there's no guarantee that he would get that. Our staff, I guess, then here's the question through to the staff. At what point, when it's a permitted use on the first parcel, when do they not have to complete all the studies and reference even if it's a permitted use?
Through the chair, with the permitted use, the development officers have to sign off on it as long as it meets all provisions of the land use bylaw. However, if our mapping, which does show wetlands, if we could bring that up on the Muni site, I'd just be curious to see where those are showing up on this. If there's deemed to be a reason that further studies are required, our development officers could require a geotechnical evaluation, a wetland impact assessment, a biophysical impact assessment to look at if there is a feasible buildable area on the remnant parcel. In fact, with this subdivision application itself, even if this, with this rezoning application, say this rezoning, if it does move forward and does go to that subdivision stage, it's very likely a wetland impact assessment or a biophysical impact assessment would be required for the entire parcel of land, and an environmental reserve easement may be put on title that may render, that would render all the undevelopable area as part of that easement or environmental reserve.
Through the chair to the way I look at this, there's already residents on there. So you're creating a title for one reason, and that's on a 40-acre parcel under our land use bylaw, you're allowed one residence. That residence is in place. The only way you can get another residence on there is get another title. That's what he's attempting to do, is get another title. It looks good on the outside, sounds good on the outside. The next one, with the concerns on the rest of that 36 acres or whatever would be left, is a permitted use. We would never see that. It goes to staff, and they make the condition, they look at it. At that time, once it goes to subdivision stage, then the applicant has the option of appeal. At this stage where it's a bylaw to create a different parcel, if it isn't allowed, there's no appeal. And to me, the house, to me, when I'm looking at this, the house is already there. He's got what he wanted 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever it was, he got the house. Now he wants to subdivide that, put a different boundary around it, and he's either going to sell it or create another parcel. That's the only two options.
Okay.
Through the chair, so I've pulled up MuniSite and I've shown where the wetlands are with our wetland layer for our mapping system. So as you can see, it goes around the parcel that he was looking to redesignate as country residential. And then you have the southern portion here, which is a bit of a plateau in itself, I guess, and that's not included with the wetland.
Okay, any other questions?
Through the chair, you could look at going direct control on the remainder and having no additional land, no uses present on there in terms of single detached if there was that concern at this point, and if that was proven out by studies as well, that there's no developable land there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Could you explain that a little more to me, Colton, through the chair? You said you could go with direct control on the rest of the balance of the land?
Through the chair. So the application would have to be amended, and there wouldn't be a decision made today. We'd have to come back with an amended application where the parcel is redesignated to direct control and uses such as single detached dwelling are taken out of the remnant, and it's largely just an environmental protection district. So there is no actual development taking place on the land, and that right isn't given with this, if this rezoning and then subsequent subdivision was to go forward.
Okay.
So that would be sending it back, right? Through the chair, to the chair? That would be recessing today and sending it back?
If that's what council wants.
And when you talk about an undevelopable portion of land, you only need an acre. You don't need 5 acres to put a house on it. You only need an acre, right?
Through the chair, the new bylaw actually doesn't even specify the 1 acre. There just has to be a buildable area, but the studies would have to prove out that you can fit a reasonably sized home.
So
and
it could be
site.
less than an acre.
Could be less than an acre potentially.
Go ahead.
Colton, today on that other piece of property, we put an environmental study on that property before we could subdivide 30-acre parcels. I believe that was put on by Alberta Health. That was recommended.
Through the chair, that's correct. That was an environmental site assessment, though. That was different. That was looking at if there'd been waste or spills or anything in the past. The kind of study that would be needed here would be a wetland impact assessment or a biophysical impact assessment. We could recess this and have that study done at the redesignation stage to determine moving forward buildable areas, and even if the setbacks in that parcel itself is appropriate for a subdivision. So you'd be looking at a study for the entire area. Once that was completed and reviewed by our external engineers, this could be then brought back to you, and we'd have a better understanding of the developable area, where the wetland, how large it can get, and if there's other factors that are going to make it larger in the future.
Right. And that's where my brain is going, back to that, because I think this is such a sensitive area. It's hard for us to sit here and say, oh yeah, that piece is going to work, because really we don't know. It's all those unknowns. So I will, I don't know whether I can ask for a recess on this now and send it
Can,
back.
Yeah. But while everyone's here, I'm going to ask them if they have any more comments. So they don't have to come back. Is there any more comments from the public? So the option is we can ask for a recess for a study on it. In the event that we don't ask for a recess, and in the event that it gets rezoned, and in the event that it comes back for subdivision, at that time, as a condition of subdivision, could a study be asked for the remainder of the piece then?
Through the chair, that is correct. The staff's opinion would be that the study not be submitted as a condition of subdivision, but as part of the subdivision application or done at the redesignation stage, so we have all that information and can make a decision. If you making studies as a condition of subdivision is standard. However, it is nice to have the basics of a study completed in advance, so the recommendation that's made by staff is fully informed by the actual study that's done. When they're done as a condition, if something arises, it's more challenging from staff's perspective in terms of an approved sub.
I can understand that. So does council want to recess for a study?
Yes, that's my recommendation.
It's not a motion.
Motion, yeah.
Okay, I'll recess this to an appropriate date to appropriate studies are done. Okay? That's all it is. Go take a drive. Okay, I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2017-11. Has the proper notifications been done?
Yes, Mr. Chair, they have been done correctly.
Yes? Can I comment on that? Can you call that on that?
Comment on whether or not proper notifications.
For sure. Yes, please.
My name is Wesley Clark, and I'm just speaking on behalf of Kelly and Amy Barefoot. They are the residents right next to this property, the proposal, and they asked me, they couldn't be here. Kelly is away working, he's been away for 6 weeks, and they are unaware of any letter that they've received in regards to this recommendation. So they just asked me to make that known, and they have commented or contacted the county regarding that, and their contact with the county would have just taken place probably this morning or maybe late yesterday afternoon, as I went over and talked to them about the situation, and they knew nothing.
They're adjacent landowners,
They're
you're saying?
adjacent, right across the road allowance. The
Okay.
access road. So I just thought I should make that comment at that time, and it's not from me, it's just in, they just asked me to do that for them.
We just got a letter, must be their notification that they sent at 12:40 today.
So do we have or does staff have a list of the notification?
Yeah.
The residents that were notified?
Through the chair, I spoke with this landowner, well, yeah, about half an hour before our public hearing started, about 12:30-ish, and I confirmed they did receive a letter. Well, they didn't receive, I can't confirm that. They did not receive the letter. A letter was sent to them. We have our spreadsheet of all the letters that were sent out. They were on the list. I confirmed the address with them. It was also sent to them, so I'm not sure what happened with the letter. I can't comment on where the letter went, but we did mail out letters to all landowners within a mile radius of this application. I told them to submit any written comments by 1 o'clock because they couldn't be here. So that was this email I received 20 minutes prior to the public hearing starting.
Okay, I'm just going to read this quickly.
So I have a question while they're reading it. I've already looked through it, but is Mr. Barefoot in opposition to the redesignation of this property?
Through the chair, I wouldn't want to comment if he's directly in opposition or approval, but I think he would like more information and more discussion and have an opportunity he would have liked the opportunity to attend the public hearing and also understand more about what's going on. I would say, yes, he would likely lean more towards opposition, but I wouldn't want to state his opinion myself.
Not so much in opposition, but if he wants to participate in it and he wasn't duly informed, and he can prove that he wasn't duly informed, I think it's our duty to give him that opportunity, and not just by a quick response this morning for him to send something in. But if he wants to, I know it's an extra cost to us to recess it, but I think if he wants to participate in it, I think that's our duty as a council to recess it and give all the residents their due, I guess their dues, so that they can make the representation if they want to.
Through the chair, staff has no issues with the recess. I actually suggested to him that was the option to move forward rather than, and that's what this letter is, just to request the recess. I said if that's kind of your main option, because he didn't have the time to put his thoughts to paper and he didn't want to do anything rushed, so that staff has no concerns if they want to move ahead with recessing.
I would say we honor his request and recess it to a later date.
Okay, if we do this, we're going to have to notify him again. How are you going to notify him the next time? You're going to make I'm thinking you have his email address now or something.
Through the chair, that's correct. We'll be doing the same thing in terms of the mail out, but I can also personally email him, and we'll also be posting it in the paper again as well. This was posted the 2 weeks prior. Of course, he was away, so he wouldn't have seen it in the paper, but our circulation did meet MGA requirements. He notes there's not due diligence in terms of going around. We can't go check and make sure everyone got their letters. I wish we could, but from the county's perspective, we did our process fully, but I understand that it would be a concern. He's the landowner across the road, so we'll follow it through with a remailing out to adjacents, posting in the paper again. We can also do social media. We can post on our Facebook and Twitter just to make sure that it's clear.
Okay, and being it's a request, we'll do, Don?
He is one of how many that was circulated?
Here, I can pull up the exact, just give me 1 second. I can pull up the list on our site. It's not working, so PD, I'm trying to pull up PD. It would have been about, I believe it's roughly 30 to 40 landowners were circulated. This parcel's right up against the town of Strathmore, which takes in a lot of those parcels as well, and this was circulated to the town of Strathmore as well, and then they could choose if they wanted to circulate it internally. But it would have been about 30 to 40 landowners roughly. If you want me to find the exact number, I could just quickly check.
No, it's not necessary. He's an adjacent landowner and he requests, and I've had a request from council, so I'll recess this to an appropriate date. Okay, sorry for coming in, but you'll have to come again. Haven't seen you for so long. Okay. We'll recess it. No, it's done. Okay. We got a motion here. We don't have a policy on candy. So if you want, it takes a motion. Well, we talked about it. I guess we didn't.
Yeah.
Margaret searched it out, and all we have is a motion from 2013 to not exceed $100 per event,
Yeah, and that
for
will,
parades.
so I will make a motion that anyone attending a parade not exceed $100 for.
Within the county?
Within the county,
Okay.
because I'm not sure. Same motion.
Okay.
Glenn's got the motion. Can you
There's
pass
a
it down?
motion. Says the county provide for the purchase of candy for parade events scheduled for 213. You can change that with amount to not exceed $100. Further, that the above is based on request seed from council of the area. So we could change that to 213 and night moved.
Does it matter for Councillor the area? Because we've been asked to go to standard.
Yeah, so that's right. So we want it countywide.
Because it's the July, it's the 150th this year, so
Yeah.
does it need to be the councillor of the area? Because we've been going,
Well, I'm
That's
the
right.
council of the area.
oh yeah, well, you can get candy, yeah.
So it says per parade events. Yeah. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Is carried. Okay, I have one little thing I'd like to bring up, come to mind, on parking on the road. I was by the fishing spot on the WID on the weekend, and there was probably 8 to 10 cars parked on the road there. Did we come to an agreement with the WID to provide parking in there, or what is, everything looks exactly the same as last year. Probably the same fishermen hanging out on the bank. I don't know if we've come to anything or not.
Mr. Chairman, they would not sign the agreement and accept responsibility for parking on their parcel.
Okay, so we got them parking on the road again.
Well, they're subject to the provincial.
Okay. Alice?
Yeah, I'd like to go a little further because of the today's event on acreages, and we've got people parking on the road. I had a resident, there was an argument going on, and somebody moved all the stuff out on the road in the middle of the night. So, you know, that happened in my area already, and now we have 2 other ones, or at least one. So maybe through the CAO, is there a way that we can report this, I guess, to our grader operators and, or our county mounties and have tickets given? Like what, how should we be handling this?
Mr. Chair, and if there's debris on the road, the proper process is to phone and register a complaint or concern with it, and we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
that's been going on in the county for
100 years.
Well, I think it's getting more so in different areas, like, I mean, to go fishing and that's a normal way to park on the road when they're fishing because they're there for a short time and gone. But to actually be parking their vehicles on the road overnight, that's, I think, going a little bit outside of that. So,
The process is phone the CAO and you'll look at.
Mr. Chairman, all we can do is respond when we get the call. I mean,
Okay.
I can't control what 8,000 residents in Wheatland County do.
yeah, you have anything better to do.
One last question through the chair to Alan Parkin. Have you managed to come up with any prices on those signs for, with regards, I'll explain to council a bit. I had Lakes and Muirfield Recreation Society call me, and they were requesting information on whether they could purchase a sign for Lakes and Muirfield that are solar and tell you your speed, but they're permanently mounted, the same one like in Brooks. And so I put a request into Alan to get, like, for me to get back. So I didn't know whether you found anything out yet, or we're a week away, or.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the prices in front of me at this time. I'll send it out as soon as they get the pricing.
No, that's right. I just wonder how you made out, so, thanks. I'll be, motion to adjourn.